Today's talk focuses on three primary areas, but we usually have a couple of backups on the end. The first item that I wanted to do is we're in a place called Palo Alto, California, which is the headquarters for Tesla in the United States. One of the nice things about visiting stores near the headquarters, we're about a mile away from the main headquarters of all the executives, is that new ideas and things Tesla or Apple or Google are working on tend to start with their local facilities and then bounce to other areas from there. So our first thing to do is sort of look through what it's like at this store, and then we're going to move into kind of three different areas today. One is we're going to review the fact that Tesla announced that they're going to lose money, which is what really affected the stock yesterday. They also had the announcement that they're going to be closing many of the galleries. And I'm really looking forward to reviewing this because it's one of the arguments we've been making for the last 6 months, is that those galleries had to be closed. And then we're going to bounce over to a quick look at the SEC discussion and go from there. Also wanted to note, I can see you guys when you're saying hello. I'll try to chat with you at the end of the show because folks watching the show that didn't catch it live typically are unhappy about the interruptions. So my first move today is to sort of just take a quick, maybe a quick look through what's going on here. The biggest thing I've been looking for, so as you can see in the showroom, they just have a nice red Model X, and the Model 3 is featured, and I would think that on the other side is a S. On the outside of the store, we obviously have a lot of Model 3s. We have a lot of cars sitting out here, with the Model 3 is sitting in the test drive position pretty aggressively. I also, as you can see, a lot of S's sitting on the lot. I guess the notable thing that I see here is that at my home store in a place called Tyson's Corner, Virginia, there are actually a lot of Model 3s everywhere, along with the S's and X's. And from what I can tell, they're kind of vehicles in repair, and it doesn't seem to be a lot of Model 3s. I think what I'm going to do is get on to the show and finish off the backside look at what's here after we finish our dialogue. So one of the things I wanted to start, so first of all, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Also wanted to thank my Patreon subscribers, the subscribers for supporting us. Also wanted to thank our Patreon supporters as well. Your support makes a difference. You can see the mic changes and other things that we're changing to improve the quality of our execution. And we're going to continue to do that camera-wise, etc. And your constructive inputs are appreciated. So one of the things that, and obviously we've got traffic moving here on El Camino Real. One of the things that's going on, before I move forward, one of the dumb things I still can't figure out is that Elon decided to buy Solar City, and the display that you see behind me, if you can make it out at all, you'll notice that there's no Solar City stuff that's there to help people as they figure out what to do in terms of hooking up their electric cars to Solar City solutions. So I just wanted to point out to you that as we do shows, keep an eye out inside those shows to determine if the Solar City acquisition really made any sense, because you're not promoting it and it's no longer in Walmart. So how are people going to know that they can hook up their cars to their Solar City solution? So this is a change I think Tesla really needs to think about that doesn't really make any sense given how much was paid for that company. The next thing in particular I was looking forward to cover is the fact that many people that kind of don't like my show will actually make a point of highlighting sort of errors or things they don't like from the show, in particular things that aren't flattering to Tesla that reflect good business principles. So today I wanted to highlight the fact that for the last 6 months I've been saying that the galleries need to go. And the reason I said that is that it's a good idea when you're a small company that nobody knows to try to get advertising by being in those mall locations they own. But it's extremely expensive, and it sucks up cash that could be used for other things like good employees or parts to repair vehicles or all these other things. So the fact that Tesla is making that change is a smart move, I think, business-wise. They're being forced into it, but I also want to note we're one of the shows that's been pointing out the need for that change for quite a while. So I just want to highlight that to you. The other thing that happens for great companies, or you're required to, is if there are shows like mine that go on, they actually have services that are supposed to record everything I said in writing and then distribute key ideas to executives for changes to be made. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that there are a couple of changes that we think still need to be made by Tesla in order to close out some of the gaps in execution that are going on right now. The first of those is that right now there's a huge problem. I'm interested in getting a Model 3 at the lowest price level right now, but the condo building I live in Washington, D.C. area is, we don't have, we have a giant fence in front of the building, so that fence blocks it so that if I want to charge the car and it's on the street, I have to put a giant extension cord from my house out the window to get to the car. I don't think that's viable, especially in a neighborhood that's in that medium zone, because basically people unplug it and use the electricity for something else, or steal it or whatever. My second option is to go ahead and go to a supercharger to charge the vehicle. So basically, there are these giant cities that consume half the population of the United States, Washington, D.C. being the other, New York, for example, Chicago. We all know all those cities. The problem that's happening is that Tesla has not put large numbers of supercharger options inside of these city areas. And I believe the reason they're not doing this right now is that the original network was set up so you could travel long distances, get charged, and not have to worry about range. And with all those people that currently have lifetime free supercharging, it would cost Tesla an arm and a leg if they put charging readily available to consumers inside of these areas. So there's a bunch of reasons why there are currently few, if any, of the large cities that have a decent density of supercharging. But in order to get to those customers, I think Tesla has no choice. So in my case, based on the fact that Tesla just shut down the inner harbor charging facilities, I would have to get my car and drive as much as 20 miles to go get a charge and drive 20 miles back. So with a 300-mile vehicle, that's no big deal. But if you have a vehicle that only has 200 miles of range, you start to get into that dicey position of, can you afford to do it if you don't have garage or other facilities to regularly charge? And so I think that this is going to really affect the density of use in the city centers or major cities, which is something hopefully that gets dealt with, because slow charging doesn't make sense, and supercharging would if it could be installed. I think Tesla needs to consider possibly creating a new brand, and we'll call it Elon Supercharging. And the Elon Supercharger network is not subject to Tesla's free supercharging, so that way the rest of us could get charging in the city without Tesla being under threat of getting wiped out by city-based users of cars that get free lifetime supercharging. So we'll see how they figure this one out, but it needs to be dealt with. The one other operating inefficiency that I think is a huge problem for Tesla is the fact that the situation where you have mechanics driving around to fix cars worked when it was a small niche manufacturer, but with the number of Model 3s going onto the street right now, there's no way that makes sense efficiency-wise. I repeat, what I've said several times is the fact that when you look at other manufacturers, if there's a mechanic that has to work on the car in any way, he simply walks between cars it takes about 3 or 4 seconds for him to get from car to car as he's doing his repair work. In the case of Tesla, you have people driving as much as 3 hours between cars to do repairs. And that mechanic driving for 3 hours is extremely inefficient and costly. So one of the things we're encouraging Tesla to consider and make a change on is to strategically start installing more service facilities according to where large sales have occurred, and also to set it up so that customers can drive within an hour to get there. And if you're a current owner and you need repair work, I would want to encourage you to avoid using their mobile repair stuff and really take time to drive to that location, because I think that, you know, it's a nightmare. The second problem that I recognize that Tesla kind of hasn't dealt with, but that's lurking, is when I went to the factory yesterday for the first time, I kept thinking about, there's a concept called liquefaction. And what that means is that Tesla's factory is built on basically landfill with water not too far down. So we're in the Bay Area right now. There are probably 3 or 4 minor earthquakes a year, and there's probably a major earthquake every 10 years or so, and it's been a while since one hit. So Tesla has the potential to simply set up manufacturing facilities for cars next to the Gigafactory, and that has not been done yet, but I really think that they could run into problems, because if you have an earthquake of some type, production will be shut down for quite a while before you can get things going. It's great the Chinese plant is being built. It won't be ready for operation until the middle of the year probably, and so there's no other place that they could produce at, and being shut down for a month or two, I think could wipe them out of their cash and maybe put them out as well, is a lurking problem that I think needs to be dealt with, and soon. And you could conceivably just do the tent setup that you have in Palo Alto, and you don't have to use it, but it might be a good idea to having, you know, having that available. The next sort of item, well, really what's going on right now that I'm excited about with Tesla is that when I saw the decision that was made to close the galleries, I was excited because it looks like some smart people are thinking it through and trying to set the company for a better structure to succeed in the future. The other issue that we all know about is the repair issues, and this is one other thing that I think Tesla has to make a decision on, is that once we know that cash isn't going to run out and the company is not going bankrupt, I actually think the production lines need to be slowed down, and a Toyota level quality emphasis needs to come aboard, because this situation of producing rapid numbers of cars with large numbers of defects, I believe, is a really sort of bad way to go, and I think jeopardize the company long term, because if you have all those repairs that have to be done, I think it puts the company in bad shape relative to having to pay for those repairs in the future in the form of going to visit those cars to fix the repairs or getting parts to them, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing I noticed yesterday as I was watching, and you can watch our show, is that Tesla has this thing going where it's very inexpensive to put protections on the car. Good morning. Morning, how are you? Good. I'm just doing my interview here on Tesla. You guys make a great car, and I'm impressed you're in this early. Keep up the good work, man. Thank you. Yes, sir. A Tesla employee was just coming to work. I was just saying hello. The next thing I wanted to sort of review is just the fact that you know, the repair stuff is a nightmare, because you know that your defects are high, but you're trying to get the money in, and so you're in this position where, do you push the cars out, get the money in, or fix it later? The one other thing that I really think that we need to consider is that when we see cars, and you'll see them when I go to Tesla tomorrow for my test drive, Tesla has this thing going where they like to put $150,000 cars out without putting them in a trailer. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And I think this is a bad idea to send cars out without protective coverings on the car. So if you watch the cars coming off the docks, when you see the videos of European deliveries, as well as cars coming onto trucks and exiting the factory, they're only selectively covering the vehicles to make sure they aren't damaged. And end customers are seeing paint and other damage related to not having these coverings. And I just think that's a bad idea, because it's a very inexpensive, even though it does take time, to try to protect the front and rear of the car, as well as maybe the roof, from damage. But I think it reduces the headaches enough that it's worth putting that protective coating on. The next thing I wanted to cover today is just jump quickly back into the discussion we've been having about the SEC and the fact that Tesla by March 11th has to respond. The problem that's happening right now is that for those of you who are apologetic for Elon, I like Elon. I think he's doing a great job. I want Tesla to succeed. But think about what he did. Number one, he put out a tweet, and then he corrected that tweet. The agreement with the SEC is no tweets would be put out unless they were vetted. So the fact that he had to correct the tweet made it very clear that the tweet initially was false, and he had it then vetted and corrected. And so right there, Elon admitted that he violated the agreement. And so the second tweet he put out about no cars to 500, a second time not vetted. So my point is that for all of you, keep sending me notes talking about Elon's such a great guy and he never did anything wrong in the SEC, but forget about it. He admitted that he violated the agreement, and therefore there are consequences to that, which in this round I think is just going to be a fine. But Elon admitted that he violated the agreement, so you guys need to get off of that. The next thing that I wanted to review is we try to provide video of different places like the parking lot at a facility like this. And the goal is that you guys can check out things that you might see here that you don't see in your local area that might be useful for you to order or have a friend ship to you, etc. Yesterday I went to the Tesla store thinking that I was going to see all kinds of cool things that you could buy from Tesla. And they basically had, like, 7 t-shirts of different types, 5 t-shirts for kids, and a $250 jacket, several $35 hats, etc. So what I'm actually going to do is when I go back to Tesla on Saturday, we at Tesla Fan Insight will be buying a little bit of swag. And if you're a subscriber, you'll be in our drawing for us to ship you the swag that we get from the factory. And if you're a Patreon supporter, we'll have swag exclusive for you, but there's very few people in that group, so there's a high chance you actually get something out of the deal. So I wanted to encourage those of you who haven't subscribed or gotten in the Patreon group, we do have Tesla swag that we'll be putting up. So I'm kind of, it's too bad, another thing that drove the stock down is the fact that Elon announced they're going to lose money this quarter. I really think the lag time on ships of cars slows down the process of booking revenue. And for those of you who've said you do not want Tesla to have a dealer network, if you had a dealer network, they could sell the cars before they go on the ship, and now they could book that revenue and then ship it out. The one other thing that, because I know the show is being watched, that is out there is just the fact that Tesla really needs to think about doing a sale leaseback of the factory to give themselves cash to work with. So unfortunately, guys, my battery has informed me that we're on fumes, so I can't do my usual closing. Don't forget your leg lifts, 5-pound weights, both legs, 20 lifts every day. Also reminder, don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating so you don't get acid indigestion and potentially cancer. I'm just going to use the rest of the battery life I have here to just show you around this facility, because this is the last time we're going to shoot here while on this trip. I wanted you guys to see what it looks like here. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, au revoir, lehitraot, choda hafez, max good. I wanted to thank Jerry, Donovan, Jim. I've seen all of you guys going by and saying hello. Thanks for doing so. and I would acknowledge more, but we're out of battery. So let me, I'm going to go to the other side of this store just to take a quick look at what we see, because obviously it's a little bit different than what you might see in your particular area. Right now it's about 6:30 in the morning, and the employees of Tesla are starting to arrive, and it's a good time for me to roll out of here, but I just thought I would walk you guys around this facility so you can get a little bit of a feel for what's going on. We're now seeing more of the Model 3s, but interesting how in other locations there are a lot more Model 3s around, and they're all gone here. I think it's kind of cool next door. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a Volvo and then a McLaren dealership. Those cars really look vicious, and it's kind of nice to see. This is El Camino Real, and obviously we're seeing what I think are repair vehicles that couldn't get in the lot sitting on the street. And you know, I think that about covers it for today. We're glad you took time out to join us to review some of the matters we discussed. Look forward to our show tomorrow. Yeah, and